This is Ruthie Jackson welcoming you to It Happened in Grand Prairie, Texas. We're so delighted to have you in our viewing audience as we bring you the history of our city, and we bring you some of the people that have made history and are continuing to make history this very day. This is our history tape number 482, and we are really honored today. We have a very special couple in Grand Prairie as we are celebrating Black History Month, and we're so pleased to bring, first of all, Mr. Samuel Jones. Mr. Samuel Jones, minister of the Church of Christ, the Dalworth Church of Christ in Grand Prairie, Texas, and we're just so pleased to have you with us.
Well, thank you for
Brother
having
Samuel,
us.
it is really a delight to see you here on the set under these hot lights, and you're at our mercy. Isn't that great?
It
Isn't
is.
that wonderful?
Well,
yes.
Thank you for having me. I really
Well,
appreciate
the
it.
Lord sent you to a good place today because this is a place where we are real pleased to have you here to find out about the real Samuel Jones.
Well,
And we're so pleased to have Joyce with us today. Joyce, your beautiful wife, and she is from the David Daniels Academy, a teacher at that wonderful, wonderful school in our city. And what a wonderful couple, what a successful couple. And we're so pleased to have you all to talk to you about your lives so that the young people that watch our show can know, well, look, I can succeed too, because I know Mr. Samuel Jones started out as a little bitty baby one day. And a lot of people helped him along the way, and we're going to try to find out maybe some of the people that inspired you. And as we go along, and if you'd look out into your camera and tell us about Samuel, your mother and father's name, and your brothers and sisters, if you would do that for us, please.
Okay, my mother and father. My mother's name is Lillian Jones, formerly Lillian Moten. And my father's name is Sam Jones Jr. He is deceased, but those are my parents, both originally from Louisiana, and they moved here to Texas years ago.
So you're the third.
No, actually it was
you
a Sam Jones Sr., Sam Jones Jr., and then Samuel G. Jones.
So, you made a break in it. That is really good. Okay.
Yeah.
And you were born where?
Eudora, Arkansas.
Eudora, Arkansas. All right.
Little bitty town.
Brothers or sisters?
I have a lot of brothers and sisters. I have, there's 8 of us.
All right.
And so I have my oldest sister, her name is Marion, Marion Mears.
All right.
And then I have a brother, Ronald. Marion lives in Arlington, and Ronald Jones, he lives in Fort Worth.
Okay.
And then a brother by the name of Garner. He's in Las Vegas, Nevada.
All right.
And then me, and of course I have a sister after me, Patricia Rowland in Fort Worth.
All right.
And then a brother, Jimmy or James, and then Carl. They both live in, Jimmy lives in Grand Prairie, and Carl lives in Arlington. And then Olivia, we used to call her Libby.
Yes.
She lives in Arlington. And I have a stepbrother, Charles Jones, who lives in Buffalo, New York.
All right. Buffalo, New York, and Nevada, they got 2 of them, but you got the rest of them here in the Metroplex.
We're all here together.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
And are your parents still living?
My father's deceased. He died in, I believe it was 99.
All right.
From prostate cancer.
And where does your mother live?
My mother lives here in Grand Prairie, the new apartments up by the post office. I can't remember the name of the apartments.
Yes.
But she lives there.
That is really great. That is really wonderful. All right. Now, we found out a little bit about what brought you from Arkansas.
Well, actually, my mom was in her late term of pregnancy and went home for a visit in Arkansas.
Yeah.
And delivered while she was there.
I see. But they still lived in Grand Prairie?
They lived in Grand Prairie.
They lived in Grand Prairie and allowed them to go across the Arkansas line to make you an Arkansas person, right?
And then they brought me back here, of course, after a certain period of time.
And what did your dad do for a living?
My father was a construction contractor.
Okay.
He had his own construction crew and built a lot of houses in Grand Prairie and Irving and throughout the Metroplex, and did that for all of his life, all that I've known, and employed a lot of people here in the area who knows him and worked for him, and a lot of people came from Louisiana who knew him and got jobs with him.
How wonderful.
And they've settled here in the city.
That's great.
in the
And
area.
with that many brothers and sisters, your mother worked in the home, didn't she?
Well, sometimes she did, and of course with 8 kids, she had to work
Yes.
outside of the home
Yes,
as well.
yes.
As we got older, I remember her being at home a lot when I was younger, but as we got older, she was working a lot of different jobs, cooking, cleaning,
Yes.
different types jobs.
Yes. Now, the first school that you went to.
The old Dalworth Elementary, now
Dalworth
David
Elementary.
Daniels Academy.
Yes.
I attended there from my first through my 6th grade years.
Yes, and who was the principal there, and maybe your favorite teachers?
David Daniels
David was it?
was the principal, and there was a lot of different teachers that come to mind. One of the ones that really stands out, Mrs. Love.
Oh,
I
yes.
think she was my first or 2nd grade teacher,
Yes.
and I had my first crush on her.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And Mr. Grant stands out. He's passed.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Morton, Mrs. Moore. There's just so many of them that really stand out and made an impression.
Oh, that is really wonderful. And from Dalworth, where did you go on up?
Robert E. Lee.
To Lee Middle School, which was Grand Prairie Junior High, maybe something.
Junior high back in that time.
Back in that time, okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember your favorite teachers at
No,
Lee?
I don't know why. I don't remember any of the teachers, particularly during junior high. I guess because it was so much of a transition for a young person, for
Yeah.
myself, that I
To come
wasn't
from Dalworth
focused.
to Lee.
Yeah, going to Lee, and integration was going on at
Yes,
that time, and so
uh-huh.
that was a lot of change for me. And played football while I was at Lee.
Yes.
Yeah.
And did you have a favorite coach then?
I don't even remember.
You don't remember your
the
coaching
coaches.
name? What position did you play? Do you remember that?
Left guard and right tackle.
And did y'all win any games?
We won a few.
Won a few.
We
won a few games. Well, Lee Middle School, usually the middle school is kind of a blob with some of our boys and girls, even now. And where did you go from there? It had to be Grand Prairie High School.
Grand Prairie High School.
You were a gopher.
I was a gopher at Grand Prairie High and graduated in '78.
1978. And tell me this, when you went to Grand Prairie High School from Lee, did you know anyone? Were you pretty comfortable? Segregation had ended and integration had begun and all of this good stuff, and now you were more comfortable at school?
I was. School wasn't a problem because I had brothers and sisters.
That went before you?
Went before me, and we were close in age, so we were in school together.
They paved the way for you,
They
didn't
paved the way, and I always had my brother Garner, who was real close to me.
Oh, great.
And he just really looked out for me. And I had cousins who went to school with me as well, and
Great.
kids from the community who I had grown up with all my life. And
It was just a blast then, a piece of cake.
It was easy. It was easy.
Piece of cake. All right. When you got to Grand Prairie High School, did you have your sights on any particular subject, or were you going to do everything in football, or what was your clue there?
Well, I was probably clueless while in high school, and I just went through it and had a good time, probably more of a good time than I should have been having.
Yes.
And I didn't put as much emphasis on my studies as I should have.
Yes.
And so I was, one of those kids who did enough, and I look back on it now, I wish I had done more, because there's so much to gain during
Who
those
was
years.
your principal or your very favorite
I believe it was
teacher at high
Mr.
school?
Berry
Mr.
was
Berry?
the principal
All right.
during that time. And I also attended South Grand Prairie High some in the afternoons for
Okay.
the auto body shop
Oh, good.
class. And of all my teachers during my high school year, I don't know why it is, but I remember Mr. Passamano,
Yes.
who was the body shop teacher
Yes.
at South Grand Prairie High.
Encouraged you a lot, didn't he?
He did, and he was funny, but he
Yeah.
was firm.
Yes.
And he taught us skills in auto body repair.
Yes.
And so, for whatever reason, he really stands out as the person who I can really remember and recall during my high school years.
Graduating in 1978, I'm going to leave you right there.
Okay.
And we're going to get to Joyce now. We know all about you up to high school, and you're a handsome young man, play football, do all of these good things. Joyce, tell us about the real Joyce, where you were born, and give your parents' names.
Okay, the real Joyce was born in Sumter, South Carolina.
And
It's a little small town.
listen to
yes.
that southern accent. Isn't it beautiful? That is so wonderful.
And my parents is Ishmael and Ruth Capers.
Okay.
They had 10 of us,
Had 10 children.
and I'm number 9.
You're number 9.
The oldest is a boy, Ishmael. And he's
Okay.
junior. He's a junior. Then next in line is my sister Annie Ruth Capers. She's in Elizabeth, New Jersey.
Oh, my.
And my oldest brother, I didn't mention him, he's still in South Carolina.
All right.
Then I had a brother next in line, Charles. He's in North Carolina.
All right.
And Bernitha came next, but she's deceased.
All right.
Then we have Brenda, Pat, Curtis, Theodore, and Deborah. They're all residents in South Carolina.
In South Carolina. Oh,
So everybody basically
You
is
pulled
there.
away from a great place in South Carolina, and she came west. Go west, young girl, right?
She
Right.
followed me.
Okay. I might know that she followed you. Tell us about your first schools that you went to in South Carolina.
Okay, South Carolina is basically a rural area.
Yes.
So it was like country schools.
Did you ride a
But,
bus, or did you have a small school?
We rode a bus. We only had the elementary school and the high school. It wasn't a middle school.
All right.
Our elementary school went from kindergarten up to the 8th grade.
Okay.
I went there from the kindergarten, no, actually from the 2nd grade to the 7th grade.
All right.
Because they decided that they wanted to try and experiment and see if the 8th grader could hang at the high school.
Yes.
But that didn't work, so we went back
Yes.
to have an 8th grade at elementary. So my principal was Mr. Davis.
Mr.
at
Davis.
Elementary. Mhm.
Favorite teacher, favorite subject, in high school especially?
Okay, in elementary school, I really didn't have a favorite. I just basically pretty much got through it.
Yeah.
High school, my favorite subject would have been science. It was interesting to me.
Yeah.
And then I had a teacher Mr. Robinson, I'll never forget him.
Yes.
He was strict. He intended for you to do what he asked you to do. And so he stays in my mind more so than anybody, because that pushed me to put forth effort and to really take note of what I needed to do and not just play around in class.
Yes.
But when I went to his class, I knew I went to work.
That's it.
Hmm.
He was a taskmaster, but that was
Yes.
good for us, wasn't it?
Yes. And I
Okay.
basically took some prompts from him and working with students myself. When they come to class, I intend for you to come to class to work. Let's
Yes.
focus. Although I work with special ed, it doesn't mean that you have a free time. I want you to work. You
Yes.
still can do what it is that has been set out for you to do.
And even though that was your favorite subject, did you have any other hobbies at high school or any other subjects that you liked a lot?
Well, I took art.
Okay.
My family have a history of being able to draw really well.
Yes.
And that came from my father's side.
Yes.
And basically all of the children had the ability. Some of us used it more than others.
Uh-huh.
And I was one of the girls who really got into it and did pretty good with it. I wish that I had kept it up, but I sort of like just let it fall to the side.
Yes.
So it's been in the back of my mind to restart, to jumpstart it, and maybe
Yes.
let that be something that I do for relaxation.
Yes, and not only that, that may relax you into a new career, into having money coming out your ears, because illustrators get lots and lots of good money, don't they? We're going to have to encourage her, aren't we,
We
Samuel?
will.
Yes,
We
we are.
will.
That's one. Well, when you finished high school, what year?
I graduated, I don't like to say this, but I graduated in 81.
In 81. That's not bad.
No, but then they sort of like figure out my age from that, because I don't ever talk about that.
Yeah, we don't talk about our age.
No.
Well, you're safe with me because I'm 82, and if I'm 82, you know she's a child.
Just a baby.
Just a baby. She's just a baby. Well, and after high school, what brought you out of South Carolina?
Okay, after high school, I took a few courses at Sumter Tech. That's a trade school.
All right.
I did some secretariat training there. And from that point on, I was going to leave to go through a program they called, what's the name of it? Job Corps.
Oh, yes.
Which was going to
Oh,
send me
yes.
to Illinois to do some training. But before I had an opportunity to do that, Sam came along.
All right.
And
what
so
was,
we met.
What was Sam doing in South Carolina? Sam, we got to hear from you.
Well, I was in the military.
All right. Now, you left Grand Prairie High School and went into the military.
I graduated Friday, May 28th, and Monday morning I was in Air Force boot camp.
In Air Force boot camp. And where
in
did you
San
start your
Antonio.
basic training in San Antonio?
Lackland Air Force Base in
At
San
Lack-
Antonio.
All right, and when you got to Lackland Air Force Base and started your basic training there, did you have any idea what you were mainly interested in, or did they careerize you?
They careerized me. I had no clue. I wanted to see the world. I wanted to get out and experience things, and
Okay.
chose the Air Force. I'm not one for sleeping outside and all of that kind of
Yes,
stuff.
all right.
So I chose the Air Force,
All right.
and there's a long history of military service in my family, and so that was an encouragement. And so I was down there for 6 weeks for my military training.
San Antonio.
hmm
And?
Well, after that, went to Rantoul Air Force Base in Rantoul, Illinois.
Rantoul.
Chanute Air Force Base, I'm sorry.
Chanute.
Chanute Air Force Base in Rantoul, Illinois, and took training there for the career that I had chosen for the Air Force.
And what was this?
It was called Aerospace Ground Equipment Technician.
Ground equipment.
Age mechanic it was called. Aerospace Ground Equipment. And that was about a 6-month school
Yeah, and that was in Illinois.
in Illinois,
Okay.
a little town called Rantoul.
All right.
And completed that training and came back to Grand Prairie or Dallas area for about a month.
Because that was home.
It was home, but I also signed up for a special program called Recruiter Assistance.
Okay. And
And
that was here in Dallas?
It was in Dallas. I worked with the guy who recruited me at the recruiter's office for a month, and we just went throughout the Metroplex to high schools and talking
Giving you
to
a
kids.
training. Uh-huh.
Right, and recruiting other kids. And after that, my first assignment was Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas,
Okay.
and was there for 2 years.
And what did you do there?
I
All
worked in
of
my
this-
field in the aerospace ground equipment, working on support equipment for aircraft for the fighter jets. And also, my brother was stationed at Nellis. He was there ahead of me.
And that's Nellis?
Mm-hmm.
That's a new
My
one.
brother Garner was stationed there.
Your
and
favorite brother really at Grand
he
Prairie
was
High
there.
School, wasn't he?
He was there at Las Vegas, and I requested that base and got it.
And got it.
And we worked right across the street from one another
Okay.
and became roommates, and so we enjoyed being with each other there for those 2 years.
Okay.
And from there, I went to Germany, spent 2 years in Germany at Bitburg Air Base.
Doing the same thing in the
doing
ground
the same
equipment?
thing, and was gradually progressing up the ranks. I was a sergeant at that point, and then got transferred back to the States, to South Carolina,
To South Carolina.
to Sumter Air
To where
Force.
you would meet Miss Joyce.
Yeah, in Sumter, South Carolina, at Shaw Air Force Base.
And it's Shaw,
Shaw.
S-H-A-W.
And from there, got involved with the church there and began working in the church and was driving the church bus, picking up kids in the
Church bus.
community. And Joyce had a nephew and several nieces who were on my route,
Yes,
but I hadn't
okay.
met her yet.
Yeah.
And one Sunday when I went out to pick the kids up, this lady got on the bus with
This
them.
pretty girl got on the bus
Yeah,
with them.
pretty little
huh?
girl got on the bus with them, and I just happened to notice that she kept looking at me.
Yes, uh-huh.
And so one thing led to another, and
Uh-huh. Yes.
here
And,
we are.
and finally you caught her.
I caught her. I think
That's
she was
right.
after me, probably.
You would never meet that. I now want to hear your side of the story, Joyce. Is that he was a bus driver and he just happened to see you, or did you make it possible to be on that bus for a very special mission?
Well, actually not. My mother sent me with my nephew and nieces because she was curious about the church that they were going
Attending?
to.
All right.
And she asked me to go and sort of like scout it out, see what's happening, see what's being said, what's being taught.
Yeah.
Come back, let me know if this is a place where I feel comfortable with them attending. So I did that. And we met, we talked. I signed a visitor card, and he called me the next day.
Yeah.
Wanted to know if I would be interested in going to a Bible talk.
Yes.
And that was outstanding because I had never had anyone to approach me in that way before as a person who professed to be a Christian.
Yes.
And so he was the first guy who I actually met who actually did what he said he did.
Yes.
And that was to be a true Christian.
A true
And so that was the thing that actually caught my attention.
Yes.
He not only approached me and asked me to go to the Bible talk, but he lived it as well. When we went out on a date, he was really a gentleman.
Yeah, really a
nice.
gentleman.
And so that stuck with me. And so I allowed him, because of that, to continue to call me
Yes.
and to have conversation with me.
And y'all became engaged?
We did.
When and where? In South Carolina or here in Grand Prairie,
It was
Texas?
in South Carolina.
In South Carolina.
I don't remember exactly when. She could probably tell you better, but our engagement period wasn't long. We were married less than a year from the time we met.
That is good. That is good.
I had always prayed for a wife, a good woman in my life, and I met her, and we had our ups and downs and our tiffs, but we just never let go of each other.
Yes.
And I proposed to her, she accepted, and we were married in
And
February.
were you still in the service?
I was still in the service.
Until when?
I got out in 87, I'm sorry.
1980.
February 87. We married in 84,
Okay.
February 84. And I separated, got out of the military in 87. I guess the preaching bug had bit me, and I wanted to go to school and train in the ministry.
All right.
And so I separated from the military February 87 and immediately moved. She and I packed up and moved to Knoxville, Tennessee.
To Knoxville, okay.
And I attended the East Tennessee School of Preaching and Missions there for 2 years, and studied the Bible, studied ministry, and she had courses as well that the wives had to be in, and worked as assistant minister at a local church during that period as well.
And after your 2 years there in Tennessee?
After our 2 years in Tennessee, we moved back to South Carolina.
Okay.
We had a desire to be involved in mission work, to go to a town where the church was struggling or there wasn't many churches, and to just try to help people to know the will of God and to live a better life.
And that was closer to your home, so you were a happy camper, weren't you?
Right. I
about
really
30 some odd miles, 28 miles away from Sumter,
from
in a little
Sumter.
town called Florence.
Okay.
And we were in Florence from 89 to 93.
Okay.
And
Florence.
started a congregation, Florence, South Carolina. Started a congregation, started out in our den. Real small group, and eventually got a storefront and grew in number. We were probably averaging 30 or 40
Members
on
per
Sundays
Sunday,
by the time that I left.
Okay.
We came back to Texas because my father had been diagnosed with prostate cancer.
Yes.
And had been away from him for a lot of years and wanted to be with him.
Near him.
And so she agreed, and we sold everything and came to Texas.
All right. How hard was it to leave Sumter in that area and your family?
It was very hard to just pack up and leave everything that I knew.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I realized that came with the territory. Once we decided that this was something that we really wanted to do, I had to separate my mind so that I could make the move from my mom and all of my brothers and sisters. But once we got here, because I stated Sumter is a very small country town,
Yeah.
coming to Texas was like, wow, interstates everywhere.
Yes.
And I was thinking to myself, I am never going to learn how to get around in this place. I just can't go anywhere because I don't know too many interstates. But it all clicked and it came together. But it was hard, but I felt that it was worth it because he had sacrificed and he had been with me all that time. And I wanted him to get to spend some time with his dad,
his father.
rekindle some things and just rehash and get to talk. And it happened, and I'm glad he did.
That's wonderful. And were either of your boys born in Carolina, or did that all happen in Grand Prairie, Texas?
No, one was born in Knoxville.
One was born
the
in
other
Tennessee
one in
when
Florence.
you were, and the other one down at Florence where
South
you were
Carolina.
doing your missionary
Right.
work. That is wonderful. Now we're going to talk about them. If we can't leave that area until we talk about the two boys, and I'm going to let her tell about them. Is that
Okay,
all right?
That's fine.
Tell us
Okay.
about the two boys and give us their names. And
Okay, first I'll talk about Avery. He's the youngest.
he's the baby.
He's the baby.
Can you
He's
hold
my
him up
baby.
so in case that Mr. Paul might want to scan Avery?
Okay.
And
Avery, he's my baby. He's 10 years old. He
he's
attends.
our baby.
Yes,
Yeah.
he is. But we say mine's and
Yes.
Colin is his
Yes.
because they're personalities.
Yes.
Avery has my personality. Colin has daddy's personality.
And where does Avery go to school?
Avery goes to school at Witt Elementary.
At Witt Elementary.
He's in the 4th grade.
4th grade.
And he's active. He's a loving child. Has a beautiful personality.
Oh, he does. And
Yes,
what's
he
his
does.
favorite subject? Do you know?
The favorite thing for Avery is reading.
Is reading.
He's outstanding. He's always been complimented on his ability to read.
Oh, that is
And
really
so that's
great.
wonderful.
That's great.
And then
And, and your other son?
We have Colin. He's in the 9th grade.
All
He's
right.
at the 9th grade center. He's
At
14
ninth
years
grade
old.
center at what school?
At South
Grand Prairie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He's a budding warrior then, isn't
Yes,
he?
he is.
Yes,
He likes to play football.
Yes, he does.
That's all. He's a good writer
Uh-huh.
when we make him focus.
Yes.
And he's daddies. They have a lot in common.
They do.
Their personalities, like I said, is about the same. And he just enjoys hanging out with his friends. He's a typical 14-year-old.
Oh, that is really great.
Beautiful child.
That's it. And you're so proud of both of them.
Yes, I am.
Yes, and how did they take moving from Knoxville and Florence back here to Texas?
They were so young.
Yeah. Colin actually came with me ahead of Joyce. She was in school.
Yeah.
And Avery was, he wasn't even a year old yet, so he stayed back with her. And Colin and I came ahead.
Came ahead.
He was 5. And he transitioned well. He got a chance to meet his granny here and a lot of cousins and friends. And so he did really well. And then in about 4 months, Joyce and Avery came. And Avery had just started walking, so I saw him walk for the first time at DFW Airport when they got off the plane.
Oh, how wonderful. And Joyce, you were back there going to school. Where were you going to school?
Yes, I was going to Chris Logan's, and I was in a nursing program.
Yes.
I completed it, and I got my diploma in nursing. But the thing about it was, I did not know that when I moved, I would have to redo it all over again
All
in
over
the state
here.
of Texas, because Texas didn't accept
South
South Carolina's, yeah.
Yes.
And so I ended up going through the nursing program here, and I worked in the nursing home for quite some while.
Yes.
But then I soon gave that up to do some other things.
Okay. Now, we're in Grand Prairie, Texas, and you're the minister at the Dalworth Church of Christ that used to be the
Sherman
Street Church of Christ, and we changed the name to W.E. Roberts, and so you accepted the, I think that is just wonderful. And give us
Yeah.
the address that you have
It's
there.
1930 W.E. Roberts.
W.E. Roberts.
Here in Grand Prairie.
And you've been here how long being the minister?
Well, in 93, we just started attending. The latter part of 93, started attending that congregation.
Yes.
It was my home church. I grew up there as a
Yeah.
kid. And in 95, our senior minister had become ill.
Yes.
And so they asked me to be his, he asked me to be his assistant.
Assistant,
And so I would preach occasionally. And then, unfortunately, in Thanksgiving 96, he was killed in an auto accident.
Mercy.
Yeah, hit and run in Dallas, Thanksgiving night. And then January 97, they asked me to be the minister.
January 97, you became it.
So I've been the minister there since 97.
Yes.
And
And y'all have grown considerably, and you're into a building
we
program?
have grown. We lost a lot of people. There's always change and transition. He had been there 23 years.
Yeah.
But we are growing. We had groundbreaking the end of January. We're building a new auditorium and classrooms. And we have a vision to impact that community in a positive way.
And you're going to do it too.
We're going to do it.
We have 1 minute left for Joyce to tell me what she's doing at David Daniels
Okay.
Academy.
Thank you. Okay, I'm the a functional skills aide,
Yeah.
and what I do there is I assist the teacher with our students who are special ed.
Yes.
But at the same time, I do teach hand on hand. We teach them the daily living skills
Yes.
so that they might be able to function out in society.
Oh.
And it's a great place to be. I couldn't have chose a better place, and I actually believe that was God sent.
Yes.
For me to be there. He intended for me to do something there.
We
and I'm
salute
gonna do
Calvin
it.
Harrison for letting
Yes, we
you
do.
come this afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Calvin Harrison. And thank you all so much for being here. We're going to watch with a great deal of interest the growth of the wonderful, what was the Sherman Street Church of Christ that is now the Dalworth. And we know that you're going to do great things. Both of you are so wonderful. And thank you all so much for this interview. And thank you for being part of Black History Month for this 2003.
Well,
Thank
thank
you
you
for having
again.
us.
Appreciate it.
And this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you that history is as we live and do.